There is a man in his early 30s. He parks a 1997 Buick LeSabre outside a craft brewery. The car has a cassette adapter running to his phone. The ashtray still smells faintly of someone else's cigarettes. The visor mirror is cracked on one side. He does not fix it. He has the money to fix it. That is not the point. This is not a rare scene. Across American suburbs and mid-sized cities, a specific cohort of millennials is doing the same quiet, slightly inexplicable thing. They are driving vehicles that belonged to their fathers. Not vintage collector cars, not stylish retro pickups, just ordinary, aging sedans and wagons from the late 1980s through the mid-2000s. Cars that were practical when purchased, cars that are now, by any objective measure, past their time. The behavior draws curiosity and mild confusion from people around them. Friends ask why they do not upgrade. Dates glance at the cloth seats and say nothing. Coworkers assume financial trouble. But for the person behind the wheel, something else entirely is happening, something that did not start in adulthood. To understand what is going on, it helps to go back to a very specific feeling. It is a weekday evening in 1996 or 1997. A child is sitting in the back seat of a car exactly like the one we just described. The windows are fogging slightly. There is a sports radio station on low. The father is navigating a strip mall parking lot somewhere in a suburb that looks like every other suburb. There is a Blockbuster. There is an Applebee's. There is the particular quality of orange light that parking lots had before LED retrofits changed everything. The child is not doing anything important, just existing inside a space that feels completely safe. That feeling has a name in psychology. It is called a secure base experience. It is the felt sense that the world is predictable, that a trusted figure is in control, and that nothing terrible is about to happen. For many millennials, that feeling was concentrated in the family car, not the house, which came with parents arguing about money, not school, which had its own social violence. The car was a sealed world, moving but contained, going somewhere but not quite there yet. This matters because of what happened next. Millennials were approximately 8 to 18 years old when the internet stopped being a novelty and became the central nervous system of daily life. They watched physical places, video rental shops, record stores, newspaper stands, dissolve almost without warning. They were the last generation to navigate adolescence without a phone in their pocket, and among the first to enter adulthood with one fused to their hand. The transition was not gradual from their perspective. It felt like walking through a door and finding everything rearranged. Psychologists who study object attachment note something important about transitions. When the external environment becomes unstable or unrecognizable, people tend to anchor their sense of continuity to physical objects from the period that preceded the disruption. The object does not need to be glamorous. It needs to be real. It needs to have weight. It needs to carry sensory information, a specific smell, a particular vibration, a certain sound when the door closes, that the nervous system associates with a time it understood. A father's old car is extraordinarily rich in that kind of information.
There is also something else embedded in this behavior, and it requires looking at what happened economically to millennials at the exact moment they were supposed to be launching independent adult lives. The 2008 financial crisis did not affect all generations equally. Older workers lost savings, but millennials lost something harder to recover: the entry point. The moment when careers are supposed to begin, when credit histories are supposed to form, when the first real apartment becomes possible, all of that compressed and delayed. The unemployment rate for people under 25 peaked near 17% in 2010. Student loan balances had been climbing steadily since the mid-1990s, marketed to a generation told that higher education was the single non-negotiable ticket to stability. What resulted was not simply financial stress, it was a particular kind of identity dislocation. The cultural script that millennials had been handed, work hard, get the degree, buy the car, accumulate the markers, turned out to have been printed on something that dissolved in water. Researchers who study what is called the precarity effect have documented how prolonged economic instability reshapes a person's relationship to material objects. Those who experience it tend to develop two distinct patterns. Some become hyper-aware of status signaling, spending disproportionately on visible markers when they finally can. Others go the opposite direction. They quietly divest from the performance altogether. Driving the old car is part of this second pattern. It is not poverty. It is refusal. But refusal of what, exactly? To answer that, consider what driving a new car in 2010 or 2015 or 2024 actually means. It means entering a financing arrangement on a depreciating asset. It means monthly payments extracted from income that for millions of millennials never grew at the rate that was promised. It means submitting to a purchase cycle that was designed for a version of adult life that many in this generation were told they would have and did not. A new car is not just transportation. It is a declaration that the system is working for you. For a significant portion of millennials, that declaration would feel dishonest. The father's car requires no such declaration. It already exists. It has already been paid for. More importantly, it arrived from outside the system entirely. It was given, not purchased. That distinction turns out to matter psychologically in ways that economists do not typically measure. There's a concept in sociology called gift economy, and its relevance here is not trivial. When an object moves between generations through inheritance or gift rather than commercial transaction, it carries what theorists call social residue. It holds the identity of the person who previously owned it. For many millennials who lost fathers to illness, estrangement, or death during exactly the years when they were trying to build adult lives, the old car is not just transportation. It is a portable relationship, a daily, tactile reminder of a person whose presence has become inaccessible in every other way. This is where most observers misread the behavior entirely.
The common interpretation is nostalgia, a backward-looking sentiment, slightly indulgent, vaguely immature. But nostalgia research has evolved considerably since it was first treated as a clinical symptom. Contemporary psychologists, including work out of Southampton and later cross-referenced in American Journal of Psychology Studies, now understand nostalgia as a self-continuity mechanism. It is not primarily about the past. It is about maintaining a coherent sense of identity across time when the present feels destabilizing. The person driving the old car is not refusing to grow up. They are refusing to let the thread snap. And there is one more layer that rarely gets named. Millennials were raised inside a specific contradiction. They were told by advertising, by guidance counselors, by motivational assembly speakers with laminated quotes on poster board that their choices would define them, that they were individuals, that they could be anything. At the exact same moment, the actual economy was narrowing, the actual housing market was closing, the actual labor market was consolidating. They grew up in an era saturated with the language of self-expression and entered adulthood in conditions that made genuine self-expression economically costly. The father's car, in this context, becomes an act of authorship. It cannot be easily categorized. It does not fit the millennial stereotype that tech companies and trend forecasters built to sell things to this generation. It is not curated. It is not aesthetic in the Instagram sense. It is specific to one family, one driveway, one version of a childhood that actually happened. In a culture that had spent 2 decades telling this generation to perform their identity for an audience, the car is something no algorithm can replicate or monetize. Which brings us to the man in the parking lot outside the brewery. He is not failing to move forward. He is not paralyzed by grief or trapped by nostalgia or making a statement about consumer capitalism, though all of those things may be partially true. He is doing something more precise. He is keeping hold of the one object in his daily life that connects the person he is now to the person he was before the world became so loud, so fast, so relentlessly pressured toward a version of success that kept moving the moment he got close to it. The father's car smells like his father. It drives the way things used to drive. When the engine turns over, something in the body relaxes that nothing newer seems to reach. Every generation inherits something from the one before it. Most of what gets passed down is invisible: tendencies, fears, patterns of thinking. This generation got something you can sit inside. And sometimes that is exactly what a person needs.